Hi, everybody. We have Shubhi today to present the workshop on customer-centric products.
All right. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Good morning, everyone. I'm Shubhi, and I'm really excited to be here and talk about products and how to build customer-centric products. All right. Before we get started talking about one of my favorite topics, let me give you some background on me. I went to college, but now feels like ages ago at Penn. I studied computer science and economics, did a bunch of hackathons. I started working in product and got to work for a lot of fun tech companies such as Wolfram Alpha, Viacom, and NewGen. And then in 2019, I founded my own company called Inside Browser. We went through Y Combinator, which is an accelerator here in the Bay Area, and I really got a crash course in the topic I'm going to talk about today. Today, I'm at Carta. I build product for early stage founders, and I love working with entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs. And so I'm really excited to be here at SacHacks. All right, so with that, hopefully you're here because you're interested in customer-centric products. But maybe some of you are wondering what that really means. Aren't all products customer-centric? And I'm here to tell you, actually, no, they're not. Let's start with a really silly example. If you were to guess which one of these is customer-centric or product-centric, could you? Okay. Most of you have probably used both types of those ketchup bottles, and so should be able to understand the difference in the experience of using the two. Because while ketchup is the superior condiment, it also coagulates and can be really hard to get out of those glass bottles. And as a consumer, that's annoying and not very customer-centric. Squeezy bottles, much easier to use. So hopefully you're getting the theme of what I'm trying to explain. You can have a great idea or technology, but as soon as you put the lens on it from a product-centric versus customer-centric approach, it can greatly change your customer's experience with that. A product-centric mindset focuses on developing newer and more advanced products regardless of the demand that exists in the market. So I go build the most innovative thing that's out there. Then I'll go find a solution for it. Customer centricity is a mindset that puts the pains and needs and desires of your customers at the heart of your product development. So I found this problem that my users are facing. Now I'll go figure out what's the best thing to build for it. So it's best technology versus best solution, looking for a new product to develop versus trying to find a problem to solve. If we build it, they will come versus Houston, we have a problem. Let's go find a solution. All right, I want to take one other silly example. Which one of these do you think is product-centric and which one is customer? I'll do a little bit of descriptions. The one on the left is a Patagonia jacket. You might be familiar with the brand. And on the right is a Gap jacket. You should hopefully also be familiar with that brand. Let me give you the answer. They're both pretty great products. I own Patagonia and I own Gap. Gap is your comfy evergreen jacket that can be bought and used by anyone. Patagonia, though, is very focused on a specific market. They focus on people doing outdoorsy things, though now everyone wears them. And a lot of the materials that they used are focused on that. So they have a big focus on sustainability, again, reflected in their clothes, in their marketing and package. Is this a bad example? I'm talking to hackers, so this may be a bad example. So let's move on to another one. Okay, hopefully you can still recognize these and you were not too young when these came out. But these are Google Glasses. They were amazing, amazing technology for their time. I still remember when they came out, I think in 2013, I actually got them for my dad and he was so excited. This was during a time when smart devices and multitasking and button-free commands were the main talking points in the tech industry. I think this might have been even before the Apple Watch. The idea that users could take phone calls and use platforms like Facebook at any time without a smartphone gave everyone the early impression that glasses might be a success. But the product actually failed as a consumer product. Why? It was definitely the most innovative thing that was out there. Well, for starters, it was priced at like $1,500, which might have been one problem for getting a bunch of consumers to use it. There are also serious privacy concerns. A lot of establishments ban them, restaurants and such. But mostly at the end of the day, these glasses didn't really have an incredibly compelling use case. There was no one app whose experience suddenly was transformed with these glasses. Like, yeah, it was nice to be able to see a text message pop up in front of my eyes, but was it worth it, the $1,500 price tag? So they discontinued it. In the last few years, there have actually been a few other smart glasses that have been really trying to target a very specific use case. I know Snap had one for taking videos or Snap videos. I know Google has one for like AR translation. So when you go visit a country, you can actually translate in real time. In other words, if you take a step back, product-centric products or companies find customers for their products rather than products for their customers. And their focus is building really innovative tech, right? And cool tech, which works a lot of the time. And companies like Google are who they are because of that. All right, so let's talk about a customer-centric example. Stripe is actually one of my favorite companies. I heard the founder speak a few years ago, and he described why they built Stripe, and that's the story I'm going to tell you today. For those of you who are not familiar with Stripe, they describe themselves as the payment infrastructure for the internet. And there was some stat that is now skipping my brain, but I think 60 to 70% of all transaction online happen through Stripe, which is insane. So what is Stripe? The base idea of Stripe is that it is a payment infrastructure that developers can embed in their websites. So essentially, I build a website, say selling shoes, and I want to be paid, so I integrate Stripe in. A customer gives me their credit card information, I send it to Stripe, Stripe charges the customer, and then pays me and sends me money into my bank account. The point that I'm trying to make is that Stripe didn't start off by saying, hey, I will run 70% of online transactions online, or I will be payment infrastructure for the web. When they started in 2010, they were actually building a different company, and they realized how hard it was to get paid online. And that's all they wanted. At that time, only PayPal existed, but if you use PayPal, it's only a peer-to-peer transaction service. So you can't just set it up where someone can automatically pay you. So they went and decided to build it themselves. They were basically the first payment API that any developer, you, me, anyone, could just add to their website. Now, of course, they're more than something that someone can add to a website. Lyft uses it. A lot of large companies actually use that as their payment infrastructure. And at the end of the day, the point that I'm trying to make is that they started with the problem and then worked out what solution was required to solve the problem. So the point I'm trying to make, there is no good or bad way. If you're an innovator and you want to innovate and discover the next big tech, then you definitely should. And that's how Google works, and they're doing really, really well. But if you're a hacker and you're trying to build something, you may have better odds building in a customer-centric approach where you actually try to find problems to solve for users, or a problem that may annoy you that you want to solve. Okay, so you may ask me, how do we do this? I would say start off with two main things: customer discovery and validation. Customer discovery is the process of understanding a customer's needs. The emphasis here being needs. This is the step where you work directly with your users, trying to find problems to solve. You're not trying to validate a solution with them. You're only trying to find out, hey, I want to talk to you one-on-one about this area of your life. Tell me what is challenging about it. Once you've done that, customer validation is when you've taken that problem, come up with a solution for it, and then you go validate that solution with your customer. I know this sounds like the most obvious thing, but the number of founders I've seen jump straight to number 2, that is customer validation, is staggering. And some of you here may have a hypothesis about the world that you think is very real and that you don't need to do any discovery and you can go straight to validation. Don't. Let's break down what those 2 steps actually mean. So I would start by going and talking to people, finding their pain points, as we talked about. Then go validate the solution with a simple minimum viable product or prototype, kind of what you guys are doing right now. Show it to more people. If they like it, keep building. I literally spoke to another founder last night, and he was showing me his prototype that he'd been building for a few months, and it looked like it. It was really well built. And he asked me, hey, when should I stop building? And I was like, you should have stopped building 3 months ago. You should not write any code until you've had 10 people tell you that, hey, yes, this is my problem. And sure, you can prototype and you should feel free to do that, but try to keep it as lean as possible. Well, that seemed easy. So what else should you not do? Never ask people what they want. The biggest issue I see with customer discovery is that founders will go to users and be like, yo, what do you want? And as Henry Ford says, people's imaginations are actually pretty limited. So you shouldn't ask people what they want. You should ask them what their problems are. So stay away from solutions. Just go to them with their problems. Also, when you're like trying to validate a problem or a solution, please don't go to your friends. They will lie to you. Your mother will also lie to you. You need to find users a few degrees away that will actually give you real feedback. So they can be friends of friends, they can be people you find online, but don't go into your immediate circle. So how do you validate? There's like a few different methods that you can use to validate. Ask them, just do it, improve it. I love the ask them method where you can actually just go with an idea. You don't even really need to have a prototype. And then there's a really cool name for it, which is the cash money method. So instead of asking them, hey, what is your feedback for this? Or do you like it or not? Quantify it. So ask them, okay, how much would you pay for this idea? Like if I build this out, how much would you pay for it? You can name a few prices, let them choose between one of them. At the end of the day, money talks, and you will get a lot more information from that kind of exercise than if you just ask them for feedback for an idea. The second is the just do it method, which you guys are kind of doing right now, which is build a prototype, show it to a bunch of people, let them play with it. It doesn't have to be code. It can be clickable. Figma is super powerful and you can create pretty powerful prototypes. I've also done PowerPoint in a pinch. Whatever you're comfortable with. And then finally, prove it. This is where you can get a little more scientific with your ideas. You can run essentially what is called a painted door test, which is literally putting up a fake door, where you can put up a landing page on a website and send it to a bunch of people and see who signs up for the wait list. Or you can go a step further and like put up an ad on Facebook or Google, and for like $10, you run the ad and you see how many people clicked on it and the different variations of it. And that essentially just gives you data to go off on. All right, what are some other pitfalls you should avoid? When talking to customers or users, avoid any buzzwords, gimmicks, and complexity. A common pitfall that I've seen people do, and I've also fallen in that trap, is you try to impress your users about how much you know. Do not try to impress your users or sound intelligent. Just keep it really, really straightforward. At YC, they force us to define ourselves as X for Y. So like, we are Uber for X or Google for Y. In one line, someone should immediately understand what your idea is or what your hypothesis is. I would really stay away from using the words AI or ML unless they mean something to you. These days, everything has AI and people will get more skeptical if you say your product has AI. Deeply consider whether your product needs ML or AI and how adding those technologies is actually going to benefit your users. Also, if your user has to ask you, how are you different from X, Y, and Z? You have 100% lost them. So be careful when you're explaining your idea. Your differentiation has to be really upfront and center from what is already out there in the market or even their current behavior. All right, let's summarize. Start with deep user insights that are rooted in pain points, and pain points being the really key word here. Solve the problems for all of your customers. And then the benefit of customer discovery is the more you do it, the more your customers are invested in you as an idea or a product or a feature. So keep talking to them, keep validating it. This is how you will get loyal users. And finally, if I had to recommend some places to get started, these are the resources I recommend. I love 0 to 1. It's an excellent book by Peter Thiel that talks about how to build something from scratch. It doesn't have to just apply to companies. It can be anything. The Mom Test is one of the best user discovery books that I've ever read. So if you really want to understand how to be able to talk to users and get real pain points, the Mom Test is really great for that. The Lean Startup has kind of revolutionized how people build companies. I would highly recommend reading that. And then finally, there is a resource called Startup School. It's really amazing. It's completely free. You can find a bunch of videos and articles about how to start a company, how to build things, and I would highly recommend that as well. And finally, thank you for listening to me for the last 20 minutes. I'm happy to answer any questions or give you some time back.
Yeah, thank you so much for hosting the workshop and taking some time off your schedule. And if
Perfect.
anybody has any questions, just drop them in the chat, and Shubhi will answer them right away for you. Just wait like for a couple of minutes.
Sure, I can wait.
Yeah,
Hopefully, my doggy's picture is inspiring you guys.
dog is very cute.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, we have a question. So Manaswini is asking, what were the most difficult product ideas you've come across?
That's such a great question. I think difficult as a word can be applied to many different things. I think the most difficult product ideas were not because they were technically difficult, because you can always find someone to build it. I think it was because it was an industry that was completely foreign to me. So I was just not a part of that industry. I had no insights that I could use. When you're building product, in general, the best people to build product are the people who face the problem. But that doesn't work all the time. If you're going to work at a company, you're going to be a product manager, or if you decide to go into tech, you will be building products for all kinds of people. So I think those are the most difficult kinds of products, because then you really have to build that product intuition from scratch. And that essentially means really deep diving into a space. It can be done. Lots of people do it. Like the example that I gave of Stripe, the founders were not in the payment space. They actually just like ventured into the problem and then had to kind of like reorient themselves. And I've done it a few times in my career, and it's a lot of fun, but it's also very challenging because you now suddenly have to know more about an area for your users that your users have lived. And like within a few weeks, you have to kind of gain that knowledge.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. I hope that answers your question. And
All right.
yeah.
Well, feel free to email me if you have more questions. This was really fun. Best of luck. I'm very excited to see the final results.
Yeah.
Um,
Please email Shubhi if you have any more questions. And thank you so much for coming today, taking some time out of your schedule. And to everybody else, we have a workshop right after this at 12 a.m. Pacific time. It's It's 12 p.m. Pacific time. It's BigQuery Madness, and make sure to join that. It's on our channel. And thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.